Hello YouTube, this is Zach over at Craftworld Designs. Today I'm going to be showing you how I sculpted a 32mm round dungeon tile base in a program called ZBrush. This is the item which I have a recording of myself sculpting, and let's see, it has some unique features here to look like kind of stone for war games, role-playing games, miniatures to stand on and look really cool. So let's get to the playback of when I sculpted it. Let's see here. Started off with a file called Basic Base, which is just about a 500 or 600,000 poly cylinder, which has most of the polygons concentrated on the top, and I just go and mask off some of these areas to draw in some of the grout lines between the dungeon tiles. This process is applicable to anything from, game design to what you might hear is my printer in the background. It's printing some other designs that I created, and that's actually what I'm using this program for, is to design files. I sculpt the files in a digital environment and then print them out. So I kind of wanted to include, various size rectangles to look like the gnomes or whatever we're sculpting, or the dwarves were sculpting, as they went through the dungeon and built it. From my limited knowledge of medieval masonry techniques, not all the bricks were the same size. I have 10 different files for a set of 10, and I sell them on eBay. You can look up the product. I'm gonna upload it after this video, or just go to my website craftworlddesigns.com. You can buy a set of 10 from there. I have flaming skulls. That's probably most extreme file in terms of how it's designed, for chaos demons or whatever, and some spikes or whatever, and then some lava, some magical crystal type bases as well for any of the dungeoneering type expeditions you want to put your minis on. This is me just, when I dynameshed the cylinder, what had happened was there's a fractal kind of pattern introduced on the top of the cylinder, just how the polygons played out, and then I divided it down to where it's negligible, but you can see it towards the top where I'm smoothing things out. And then over the course of 10 or so of these designs that are all similar but each unique, I've gotten pretty good at rounding off the stone edges to make it look more realistic. But my technique is just to go in and mask it off and then extrude each tile, or extrude all the tiles just as one, and then go in and sort of break them down, add some chips to the edges where the pieces broke off a bit. And then pretty shortly here I go in and do a little bit of alpha. I use this alpha. It's just a default alpha. It's I just use it as almost like the rake tool. But I think I've done a few extra sets of these in the past. I couldn't find the file when I try to come across it. What it was just alphas. I just use an alpha for like granite, or well, I guess an alpha for granite would be really flat because you got all the quartz crystals, but there's a lot of work that goes into making stone look realistic, and that's a huge part of environmental design too. Is for video games, you have a lot of rocks and various stuff. You might only have 6 or 8 different guns in a given map, but you have thousands of rocks. So people get pretty picky about how their rocks and stones look. This is an attempt to make it kind of look like slate, but I wanted to have each cobblestone or each slate slab have a somewhat different orientation from each of its neighbors, so it looks more random, like they just laid the stones in there as they were going along. And then the next step is to just mask off individual stones so they each have their own direction. So I kind of just do a random distribution of directions. Try to use a different draw size for each one, to give it a little bit of distribution in the feature sizes as well, because you're going to have that in natural stone. Something like a sandstone will probably have smaller, particulates than, say, something like slate, where, it's like more of a layer cake type structure. Here I just make sure the grout's not perfectly flat, plain. Otherwise, when it goes to print, it's going to be the individual horizontal layers making it up, and it stands out more. That's just an artifact of the print process. That's, not probably necessary for something like video game design. But it makes them look more realistic, because those gnomes or the dwarves or whoever built these dungeons probably weren't too. I guess dwarves have an eye for masonry, and they would lay the mortar down in a really homogeneous fashion, most likely. But we'll say it's a gnome dungeon, or maybe it's a human dungeon built by humans. A really easy way to make it look realistic is just to focus on making sure the corners aren't perfectly rectilinear. Any little bit of effort will pay off in dividends. Alright, so this is the finished piece. That's actually the end of the video. Hope you guys liked it. Thanks for watching.